If you take bush baby's mat and you can endure its cry for 7 days, you will become rich. But if you cannot, prepare to meet your end or to run mad. Who will dare to try? Emmanuel mourned Alice for a long time. He returned home for his mother's burial, and it was during that period that he finally heard the full truth about what she had done to Alice. When he found out, he was broken and deeply traumatized. He never realized how wicked his mother could be. All his life, he believed his mother was a good woman. But sometimes, a mother's love can go the wrong way. Alice did not deserve what happened to her. The principal chose Emmanuel's future over Alice's life, and in trying to protect her son's future, she destroyed it completely, and very soon you will see how. Back at the university, Emmanuel struggled to concentrate. His mother was gone, the woman he loved was gone, and his child was gone. It was too much for him to bear. He began missing classes. He was now waking up late. He barely ate. His friends were worried about him, but while he was drowning in pain, life around him continued normally. Back in the town where the principal and Alice once lived, Bush Baby was still tormenting people. Boarding school girls still heard the cry of the baby at night. Madam Cecilia was dead. Bush Baby was alone in the world, with a father who did not know it existed. Rumors began spreading that it was the witch who created the monster. People became afraid of going near the bush after sunset. And then something new started happening. Every last day of the month, a mat would appear. Sometimes at the middle of a T-junction, sometimes in front of somebody's shop, and other times at the gate of a house. Nobody ever saw who dropped it there. For most people, when they saw the mat, they simply removed it from the road and continued with their lives. But not everyone did this. One day, a new Mesuya or Suya seller named Malam Hassan relocated to the community. He did not know much about the town's history. One evening, he saw the mat placed neatly in front of his shop. It looked different from the normal mat. It was strong, neat, and almost beautiful. He asked around, but no one claimed it. Since he liked it, he took it home, and that was the beginning of his trouble. The first night, Malam Hassan could not sleep. He kept hearing something moving around his house. He searched everywhere until he finally found a rat. He felt relieved. So this is what was disturbing me, he said. He laid back down, but not long after, the noise started again, and this time it was louder. He was exhausted. He stayed awake all night, searching for what was making the noise, but never found it. It sounded like the movement of a very big rat. The next morning, he did not even open his shop. He emptied his house, cleaned everywhere, and arranged everything neatly. He wanted to sleep that night, but Bush Baby had other plans. At night, he heard the cry of a baby. At first it was faint, then as hours passed, it became louder. Malam Hassan was confused. None of his neighbors had a newborn baby. So where is this sound coming from? He covered his ears, but the cry only grew louder. After searching the whole house again, he realized something shocking. The sound was coming from the mat. He stared in disbelief. How is this even possible? He asked himself. He carried the mat and threw it outside. Sleep deprived and exhausted, he just sat on the floor and started crying out of frustration. Eventually, he fell asleep outside. The next morning, his neighbor woke him up. "Why are you sleeping outside?" the man asked. Malam Hassan asked him, "Did you hear a baby crying last night?" The neighbor replied, "Oh no, I slept well. Where will the baby be crying from now?" Malam Hassan explained everything, how he was hearing a baby cry at night and how it was coming from a mat. The neighbor did not take him seriously. Embarrassed, Malam Hassan went back inside his house. But the mat was there. It was inside, exactly where he first placed it. He was shocked. Did I sleepwalk? He wondered. He rolled it up and kept it in the corner. He told himself, Maybe this lack of sleep is messing with me, because how can a baby be crying from a mat now? The next night, it rained heavily, but inside his house, Malam Hassan heard the baby crying again. This time, he also felt intense heat, so the baby was crying and he was feeling so hot. He stepped into the rain, thinking maybe the heat would reduce, but he was still sweating heavily, his sweat mixing with the raindrops. He sat in the middle of the rain, crying. His neighbors saw him through their windows and wondered what was wrong with him. For 6 nights, Malam Hassan suffered, crying, heat, strange sound, the feeling of something brushing against his skin like strands of hair. He began to feel like he was losing his mind. By the 6th night, he decided he would return to his state. He believed maybe the problem was because of the town itself. And by the 7th night, he was a shadow of himself, sleep deprived, weak, exhausted. That night was worse. Crying, heat, strange movement, feeling of something touching him. He could barely endure. He packed his load and waited for morning, but exhaustion overcame him. So sometime in the night, he slept. The next morning, Malam Hassan woke up to something unbelievable. His house was filled with wealth, gold, silver, emerald, cash, and the mat was gone. He called his brothers and showed them everything. He explained what happened each night. His brothers told other people. News spread throughout the community. Malam Hassan had to leave the town because he felt he was not safe. Too many people knew that he was now very rich. He returned to his state. But after what happened to him, people began to connect the story, and that was how the legend of the mat truly began. After Malam Hassan left the town, news spread about what happened to him. People started talking. Some people believed it. Some said it was a lie. Some said the Malam must have done money ritual and was just lying. But one person believed the story completely, and that was Okey. People did not respect him. They mocked him. They said he would never amount to anything. When he heard that a simple Mesuya survived 7 nights and became rich, jealousy entered his heart. He told himself, I can do it now. What is there? If he can do it, then I can do it. Okey started going into the bush every day, searching for the mat. Finally, one morning, at the middle of a T-junction, he saw it. The mat. It was placed on the ground. He did not hesitate. He picked it up immediately and took it home. He was ready to show everyone that he would soon become rich. The first night, Okey heard the cry of a baby. He quickly noticed it was coming from the mat. But unlike Malam Hassan, Okey refused to throw the mat away. He was determined. He did not want anyone to take the mat, so he held on to it. The second night, the crying baby became louder. He started hearing strange movements inside his room, like something was walking around. He searched everywhere but found nothing. He knew the sound was coming from the mat again. Still, he refused to remove it. Then the heat began. He was sweating heavily, even though the weather was normal. But Okey was stubborn. He told himself that he would endure anything as long as he would become rich. Suddenly, the mat started moving, slowly sliding across the room towards him. Okey froze, but he refused to give up. He wanted that money. The next morning, he came outside looking tired and worn out. His neighbors asked him, Okey, this one you are looking as if they beat you. Did they catch you stealing again? Okey told them proudly that he had taken the mat and he would soon become rich like that Malam. The neighbors laughed and said, Okay, that night, Okey decided to sleep at his friend's house. He believed that if he was far from the mat, he would be fine. But it was worse. At his friend's house, he heard the baby crying again. He felt heat. He heard someone calling his name. Okey, help me. He started shouting. His friends were confused. They could not see anything. They thought he was losing his mind. Okey ran back to his house that same night and threw the mat outside. But when he entered his house, the mat was there again. exactly where it had been before. That was when the real fear entered his heart. He ran to his friends shouting. They tried to hold him down, but he was too frantic and decided to burn the mat. That was his biggest mistake. The mat began moving violently. It struck him. It flogged him. Okey screamed in pain. His friends were standing there, watching him struggle with nothing visible. To them, it looked like he had completely lost his mind. And truly, he had, because that was how Okey ran mad. After that incident, nobody in the community doubted the story anymore. The mat was real. It could bring wealth and it could also destroy you. From that day on, whenever people saw the mat in front of their shop, they used stick to push it away. Whenever they saw it on the road, they crossed to the other side. Nobody wanted to risk it. Years passed. Some people tried to take the mat, but they all ended up either dead or mad. Nobody in his right senses dared to take Bush Baby's mat. 5 years passed. The mat still appeared every last day of the month, but nobody touched it. The town had learned its lesson. During those earlier 5 years, Emmanuel was still in the university. The truth about his mother and Alice weighed heavily on him. For a long time, he struggled badly. He could not concentrate in class. He missed lectures. He barely ate. He woke up late in the mornings. There were times when he felt like dropping out completely, but his friends did not leave him alone. They dragged him to class. They shared notes with him. They forced him to read. They stayed up with him during exams. Slowly, with their help, Emmanuel was able to stabilize. It was not easy, but he graduated. After graduation, he got a job at African Top Bank. That was what brought him back to the same town. Although 5 years had passed, Emmanuel still struggled to fall in love. He struggled to laugh. He struggled to feel peace. He buried himself in work. But one thing Emmanuel did not struggle with was sleeping with women. At least once every 3 days, there was a woman in Emmanuel's bed. His life was straightforward. Work, women, sleep. Mabel, Alice's former classmate, was still in town. She now owned a boutique. She was smart and attractive. Men bought things for her. Her car, her boutique, her lifestyle. Men made it possible. One day, she walked into African Top Bank and Emmanuel was at the counter. They recognized each other immediately. They exchanged numbers. That weekend, they met at Emmanuel's house, and of course, they smashed because that one knew they had Emmanuel. Their relationship started casually. They were sleeping together regularly. 3 months passed. Mabel began thinking long term. She wanted to marry Emmanuel. He was handsome, and she believed she would have beautiful children with him. She knew Emmanuel had not healed from Alice. She knew he would not easily agree to marry her. So she made a decision. She deliberately got pregnant for him. When she told Emmanuel she was pregnant, he did not argue. After what happened to Alice, he did not want another woman to suffer because of him. He agreed to marry her. They got married, but Mabel had other plans. She knew about the mat. She knew about the wealth it could bring. She wanted that wealth, but she was not willing to risk her own life. She only married Emmanuel because she wanted to bear the title Mrs. for some time and have a child as a married woman. She had long-term plans of divorcing him. To her, it was nothing deep. One day, she told Emmanuel something that changed everything. She told him that Bush Baby was Alice's child. She reminded him of the principal's confession. She told him how she once met Alice in the hut inside the bush where the principal made Alice live. And Alice told them everything. Putting that together with the principal's confession, she was sure. She said, if you want peace, if you want to be close to your child, you need to take that mat. The moment Emmanuel heard something about Alice, his heart reacted. He carried a lot of guilt for years. He always felt like he could have done more. So he began searching. He went into the bush. He passed the T-junction every morning before work. He passed it again in the evening. Until one day, he saw the mat placed neatly in the middle of the T-junction. When Emmanuel saw it, he ran toward it. He picked it up and hugged it. He began crying. People nearby shouted at him, "Leave that mat alone." They told him about Okey and other people who had either died or ran mad after taking that mat. But Emmanuel did not listen. He took the mat home, and when Mabel saw it in his hands, she smiled. The moment Emmanuel entered the house, Mabel acted quickly. She did not waste time. While he was still holding the mat, she lured him into the second room in the house, the smaller one that they rarely used. For a moment, she hesitated. She wanted to stop her plan, but she reminded herself that nobody helped Alice, so Emmanuel does not deserve help. Before Emmanuel understood what was happening, she stepped out and locked the door from outside. "You just have to endure for 7 days," she said calmly. "After that, we will be rich." Emmanuel was shocked. "Which rich?" He knocked on the door. "Mabel, open this door. I have to rest, abeg. I have work tomorrow. I can't stay here for 7 days. But she refused. She passed food and water to him through the window. She told him to be strong. Emmanuel's torment was different from Malam's and Okey's. This time it was personal. Bush Baby was actually the spirit of Alice, and she knew it was him. She loved him at least once, but she was also angry. Angry that he did not fight harder for her. Angry that he never came looking. Angry that he had moved on. The first night, Emmanuel saw her, Alice, sitting quietly on the mat. He froze. She looked exactly the way he remembered her. She asked him softly, "Why didn't you ask more about me?" Emmanuel began to cry. I am sorry," he said. "I did not know. I did not know what she did. I did not know my mother was capable of such wickedness." They spoke for a long time. Outside the house, Mabel heard his voice. She peeped through the window, trying to see who he was talking to. But she saw no one. Her heart sank. Is he running mad like Okey already? She wondered. This is just day one. Oh. On the second night, Emmanuel asked Alice the question that changed everything. He asked, "What happened to you? What happened to the baby? Tell me everything." Immediately he asked those questions, a loud scream filled the room. Then came the disturbing sound of a baby crying. It was louder than anything he had ever heard. The crying felt different when it was Emmanuel. The sound shook him. That question angered the spirit of Alice. The crying did not stop. Emmanuel began hearing things moving around the room. He saw Alice pacing back and forth, but only he could see her. Mabel heard him shouting inside, "Alice, I'm sorry." She considered opening the door, but she remembered the wealth and she stayed quiet. On the third day, Emmanuel had lost noticeable weight. He barely ate. He barely slept. He talks to himself constantly. Sometimes he would laugh. Sometimes he would cry. On the 5th day, Alice appeared again. This time she was not calm. She looked at him and asked, "Why did you marry Mabel?" Emmanuel answered honestly, "She was pregnant." Alice stared at him. "So you want to take care of her and her child, while I and my child keep roaming the bush?" Emmanuel shouted, "I am sorry. Alice, forgive me." Alice burst into laughter, a loud, unnatural laughter, and Emmanuel began laughing too. He laughed for almost 3 hours straight. Outside the room, Mabel was afraid. She did not know whether to continue or to stop. She wanted the 7 days to complete, so she left the house and stayed in a hotel. There were only 2 days left after all. The 6th and 7th night were the hardest. The crying returned. The heat returned. Emmanuel saw Alice angry. He felt something touching him. He heard whispers calling his name. He begged. He cried. He apologized over and over again. By the 7th night, he was barely conscious. Then suddenly, silence. No cry, no heat, no voice. He fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, Mabel returned home. She opened the door to the room. A bad smell filled the air. Emmanuel was sleeping on the floor. The room was filled with wealth, gold, silver, emerald, cash. Mabel stood there in shock. "Damn it, I am rich," she shouted. Bundles of cash. It was real, and the mat was gone. Emmanuel was still sleeping on the floor, breathing heavily like someone who had just survived a battle. Mabel did not wake him immediately. She allowed him to sleep. For the first time in 7 days, the house was completely quiet. When Emmanuel finally woke up, he looked weak and confused. He went to the bathroom and took a long bath and came out slowly. He looked at Mabel. What did you do to me? He asked. Mabel did not show guilt. She laughed lightly. So after what happened to Alice, you think I can actually love you, she said. Amo, at least now we are rich. Emmanuel looked at her carefully. Who is we? He asked. That wealth is for me and me alone. Mabel laughed again. You lie, she said. You lie, Emmanuel. But Emmanuel was serious. He began planning immediately. He took a portion of the wealth and built a house. Inside the house, he created a special room for the riches. He gave Mabel a smaller portion, enough to take care of her and the child for life. He wanted nothing to do with Mabel. But something inside Emmanuel was no longer normal. Even 1 year after the encounter with the mat, he was not the same. He would talk to himself. Sometimes he would shout in the middle of the night. Sometimes he would laugh suddenly for no reason. He claimed he still saw Alice. He claimed he still heard crying. Sometimes he would apologize to empty corners of the room. Alice, I'm sorry. He needed help, and Mabel felt pity for him. She had to move in with him to help him. He still resented her, but he loved their child. His health did not get better, and Mabel could no longer handle it. Eventually, she and some family members took him to a psychiatric hospital. He was in and out of the hospital for years. Sometimes he looked stable, but sometimes he was completely out of control. The wealth did not bring him peace. It only deepened his torment. And one day, Emmanuel finally left the world. Not violently, not dramatically. Just a broken man whose mind never recovered. Mabel remained. She was still his legal wife. She had the wealth. She had the child. In the end, she benefited the most. The mat had given riches, but it had also taken something important. In a strange way, the principal's decision years ago had come full circle. She tried to protect her son's future. She destroyed Alice's life to secure it. But the same decision became the root of Emmanuel's suffering. Sometimes, love done the wrong way becomes wickedness. And sometimes, the consequences do not end with one generation. The mat still appears every last day of the month, waiting. But the town knows wealth can come, madness can come, and sometimes end can come. Peace rarely comes with that mat. So at the end of the day, do you think that the mat was a blessing or actually a curse? Let's know in the comments.